All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this video. My name is Taylor Bentur, and I want to talk to you today about how to plan a leadership offsite that can strengthen your company, help you basically go from where you are to where you want to go in a shorter time frame. That's the purpose of an offsite, is to get clear on the best path for you to be able to achieve your goals as quickly as possible. And let's dive straight into it. So we had our first offsite 2019 mid-December. Okay, so this is about 9-10 months ago, and it wasn't really a leadership offsite. It was basically our entire team. We had like 3 people, and then the rest of our team was pretty much in the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So we got together, and at that time we were doing about $40,000 per month, $45,000 per month. I'm gonna put a screenshot somewhere above here to show you what our actual revenues were based on our agency dashboard. Fast forward to September 2020. Our revenues, well, let's just say August 2020, our revenues in August were about 104,000 in revenue. I'll put a screenshot here. My numbers may be a few thousand off. So how do you actually plan an offsite? That's the purpose of this video, and let's get straight into the whiteboard. The offsite is where you and your leadership team get together, you go and meet up somewhere, and normally if you're in an office, it just means you leave the office, you go an hour out of town from the office, and you guys hang out somewhere for 2-3 days. Sometimes it's just 48 hours, other times 72, sometimes 4 days. And you basically discuss strategy for the company. Okay, that's it. It's literally just strategy. There's not really much else other than talking in front of a whiteboard and talking in a room with your team. 3, 4, 5 people, good enough, and I don't think it should be more than 6 because then it just gets to be way too many people. So that is what an offsite is. Now here's how we prepped for our offsite, and then I'm going to get into each day and what we did within each day, so you can kind of have a rough idea on how we actually did this thing. We're not perfect at doing offsites. This is literally the second offsite we've ever done, and I would say that the one we just did about 2 weeks ago in Playa del Carmen, I'll put a photo here somewhere, it was a really good structure, and it kind of just fell in place. We didn't really plan we didn't really plan for the structure that we did, and it just ended up being perfect. So preparation wise for our next offsite, you would kind of want to go to your leadership team and say, hey, here's the things we're going to cover, the big wins since our last offsite. So this is about a week or 2 prior to the offsite that's coming up. Send over a document to your team, say, hey, brain dump all of the big wins that we've had since our last offsite. Brain dump any issues that you want to discuss. IDS stands for issues. Identify, discuss, and solve. So basically identify any issues, discuss them, and then solve them. So if there's any major issues that we want to discuss, put those issues in a list so that when it comes time for the offsite, we can discuss them. Bottlenecks in the company, okay, those are huge. Asymmetric actions is basically big projects we want to work on that we think are going to have the biggest impact on growing our agency as quickly as possible. So these are kind of new projects that we're doing. Bottlenecks is kind of like fixing and increasing the throughput of existing things within our machine, existing systems that are breaking down, and how can we make those better. Asymmetric actions is more like building a new project, something new to the machine that's going to basically have a big impact. OKRs then, one of the final things we're going to do is basically discuss OKRs. There's not much preparation needed for this. I should probably cross this out. And then action items, I'll cross this out as well, and then fun, I'll cross this out. So the preparation is really just these 4 things right here so the leadership team would need to kind of just brain dump some bullet points on what they think they want to cover at the offsite. Fantastic, okay? So day 1, we arrived to Playa del Carmen. We didn't really do anything at day 1. We arrived midday, and we just chilled because flights and like travel, and everyone's kind of groggy from traveling, whatever. So we took that half day off. Now, let's just consider day 1, the day where we actually started working. This first thing we did is we get in front of the whiteboard and we list out the big wins. Okay, so we literally just put it on a whiteboard here. We just say big wins, and below that we just start jotting it down. Someone's on the whiteboard, someone's writing it down. The first thing, big win, is our MRR more than doubled since our last offsite. Our last offsite was again mid-December 2019. We weren't able to have offsites in between September and 2020 to December 2019 because of COVID-19. There was no traveling, so that kind of sucked. But big wins, we doubled MRR. Another thing is we doubled our team size. Another thing is that we did this, we did that. It's just basically like, hey, let's break the ice with some wins and let's talk about what we've accomplished. That's fantastic. It's a good vibe. It's a good way to start things. And I recommend that everyone pretty much starts out with just, hey, what have we accomplished since our last offsite? It gets the juices flowing. It gets everyone motivated. Fantastic. Okay, pretty simple. Now, let's erase this and talk about the next thing. Once we've got the big wins done, then what we kind of started doing, and we didn't really plan for this, it kind of just naturally happened, and I think it's a beautiful process, is we began to just list out a brain dump on all the potential issues that we want to discuss on one side of the window. So here's the major issues that we want to discuss. Someone wants to discuss like our hiring pipeline. You know, we're not able to hire people quick enough. We need to do that. Someone wants to discuss the better like management for different account executives or something or whatever. We just list out the issues in a simple list. Now, we're not talking about these issues on a very in-depth level. We're simply just listing them out to get to kind of brain dump it all in one giant list, so we have it there. Now, the next thing that we did is really awesome, and this is probably my favorite part, is we listed out, let me see if I can erase this. We listed out our 4 Polaris stars, okay? Now, I don't know if I've ever spoken about this, and I think every company should have this. I kind of stole this from Jeff Bezos. But Jeff Bezos says that, you know, in Amazon, we're trying to focus on 3 things: fastest shipping, widest selection, cheapest prices. And if you think about these 3 things, they're extremely evergreen. No one on planet Earth is ever going to want slower shipping. No one's ever going to want to pay more. And no one is ever going to want to go to a store and have less selection. These are 3 amazing evergreen things. And Jeff Bezos basically says, these are the 3 things we're just trying to relentlessly improve. And if we can be the best in the world at these 3 things, we'll know that we'll be one of the most valuable companies and most customer-centric companies on earth. Fantastic. So I tried to apply that in the agency world. It's way harder because it's a lot more subjective given we're serving clients. However, the Polaris stars that we came up with are pretty much the following. So we have best experience. Let me turn this down. Just 1. So we have best experience. That's one of the Polaris stars. The next one is greatest results. Okay. And my writing's terrible here. You probably can't even read that. The next one is utmost efficiency. It's hard to write with this damn thing. And the last one is MRR growth. Again, terrible writing. It's hard to write with this E-pen thing. So these are the 4 kind of Polaris stars that we're trying to relentlessly become the best at. Now let me define each one for you, and this will give you kind of a good idea onto why this is a good exercise to do for your offsite. So these are the 4 things we're trying to relentlessly improve on. Best experience is very subjective to the client and the people inside Better AMS that are working, you know, with us. So again, examples of best experiences, it's subjective, it's emotional. How do you measure, you know, emotions, and how do we know that we have the best experience? Again, when you think about Amazon's fastest shipping, it's very easy for them to measure the fastest shipping. Are they able to, you know, ship packages faster than all their competitors? Who has the fastest shipping time in the world? It's very easy. You can go and look at your competitors and see. That's easy to measure. Cheapest prices, again, very easy to measure. You can have like price matchers that go and like scrape the entire web to see if, you know, which products on Amazon are, you know, winning the lowest price relative to other products on different websites. Easy to measure. Best experience is difficult because it's so subjective. However, the way that we're going to measure this is through retention rate. Okay, so retention rate for not only our clients but also for our people. Hopefully I'm recording because this is going, yeah, we're good. So retention rate is basically at the annual level, and that's how we are measuring this best experience. Retention of our people, so if someone decides, hey, I don't like working here, I'm leaving, that affects our retention rate of our people. And the retention rate of our clients. If one of our clients leaves, then that affects the retention rate of our clients. And we measure this at an annual level. Now, don't get me wrong, we measure this monthly, but really we want to see year over year increase for best experience. So I would say that the best experience will be achieved if we can consistently hit 100+% retention rate. I mean, like net, pretty much like net. I think it's net negative. I don't know. Net positive. Sorry, retention. So where like it's actually greater than 100%. So the best SaaS companies in the world, SaaS just stands for software as a service. The best software companies in the world, they don't have churn less than 100%. They have churn that's actually over 100%. So they have like 105% churn, which again, I'm trying to like wrap my head around the math of this. I think it's net positive 5%, but for some reason I was thinking it was net negative. But basically that means that they are actually gaining more customers than they're losing customers through referrals. Okay, so their existing clientele or their existing user base is referring more users than the amount of users that are churning, if that makes sense. So that's the goal with our agency, is to have that positive greater than 100%. I'd love to see it like 105%. I think it's possible given that there's many other companies that are doing it in software. So fantastic. Now on the people side, that's also the other thing, is just making sure that no one leaves and we can have greater than 100% for people. That would mean that, for example, if we have 100 employees, we have 100 people in the company, one person leaves, but we signed 10, but we hired 10 new people from referrals from our existing 100 people. That means that we have basically 109% retention rate of people. Okay. That's kind of the math that we're doing here. It's very simple. Now, that's best experience. So what we do is we list out best experience, and then we write down all of the major asymmetric actions and bottlenecks that we think we can improve upon in this category. So for example, a bottleneck that we could make way better might be something along the lines of cleaning up our onboarding process. So our onboarding process is pretty basic for clients. We could make that much better. So we would write down on the whiteboard like, hey, I would call this out. I'd say, hey, our onboarding is shit. It could be way better. Pardon my language. And that's just a bottleneck because it's already in the machine. We already have onboarding in the machine. Now here's an asymmetric action. This is something that isn't really in the machine that we could add to the machine. An asymmetric action could be client gifting. Maybe we want to budget $250 a month. Sorry, I don't know why I'm writing client. It's hard to like talk and write. So client gifting. And maybe we want to budget $250 a month, roughly about $3,000 a year, to gifts for our clients. Okay, that's something totally different that we don't do, and it's just like a random kind of idea that we think could drastically increase the experience. If we just randomly send a client a gift on month 3 and month 9, they're probably going to think that we love them a lot more, which we do, and it's just making that love more aware, like increasing the awareness of the love that we have for them so that they continue to work with us. Okay, so client gifting is an asymmetric action. So basically we'll list out all the big ideas, okay, for each category. So we'll list out the big ideas on solving bottlenecks and asymmetric actions. Now, I don't think that the team was thinking about it like this. I was personally thinking about it like this in terms of bottlenecks and asymmetric actions. You can think of, again, I've talked about this in previous videos, but asymmetric actions is net new. It's just a new project, completely new part that you're adding to the machine. That's not really related to anything that's already within the machine that would have a bottleneck. So that's pretty simple. I thought of it like this. I don't think Destiny or Alex, when they were at the offsite, they were thinking of it like this, but this is just kind of how my brain works. They were probably thinking at least bottlenecks wise, but this is asymmetric actions is kind of some weird thing that I just put in my brain to try to always be thinking of like net new projects that we can do to basically take us to the next level. So greatest results is about growing our clients' businesses. How can we be the most effective agency in the world at delivering business growth, basically growing the client's brands? That's pretty simple. Then the next one is utmost efficiency. The metric for measuring utmost efficiency is going to be profit margin percentage. I know that can be argued. However, anything that relates to improving our systems. So if we can build an automation that reduces the time it takes for someone to do this task from 5 hours to 1 hour, that's going to drastically impact the bottom line, because that means that that person has 4 extra hours per day, per week, per month to be able to invest in other things. And hopefully they invest that time wisely, so that we can be able to continue to increase the profits. But basically, that is how we're measuring out most efficiency right now. I know that these metrics are subject to change with scale, because technically we may have a strategy that we want to scale as quickly as possible, and we're not really focused on profit. So this is subject to change. But MRR growth is very simple as well. That is just basically, hey, let's just continuously grow our MRR. Measuring that is very simple. It's what is our monthly revenue, okay? And all of these things are measured at the annual level. And this is kind of how we've done our best to try to replicate similar and model similar to what Jeff Bezos talked about, in terms of having 3 evergreen, things that you can relentlessly work on that are never going to change. And if you think about this, no client is ever going to want a worse experience. No client is ever going to want to have less results, grow their business less. That doesn't make sense. And no company, basically no agency, no people in that agency is ever going to want to spend 5 hours doing a task when we could get it down to 1. Okay. So that's it. And MRR growth, this one is kind of a little random Polaris star that lives on its own. And this is strictly related to kind of sales. But it's very important because, if we don't grow our MRR, we won't be able to achieve our vision or our mission. And we won't be able to help more people by hiring more people and by helping more clients, etc. So that is what we did. We did a massive brain dump in all 4 of these categories. And then what we did is we went through each category and we picked 1 or 2, but basically we tried to pick the number 1, whether it's a bottleneck or an asymmetric action that we can work on for the next 90 days, okay? I'm a big believer in 1 thing. However, you might have 2, you might walk away with 3. Just make sure that it is reasonable enough for you to get all of it done in the next 90 days. If you can make it 1 thing, that's fantastic. But if there is 2 or 3, just make sure it's reasonable for the next 90 days. And that is pretty much it for day 1. And this actually lasted, I would say, probably 2 days straight just doing this, because it was our last offsite was like 9-10 months ago. So there was a lot to cover. Now, of course, there was other things that we covered on day 3, which it was primarily about issues where we dove in depth about certain issues. I'm not going to talk about what those issues are, but there was at least a solid 1 to maybe 2 days just discussing certain issues that we had and trying to create solutions for those issues. So again, if I was to recap this entire thing high level, I would make sure that your company has these evergreen Polaris stars that you can kind of always look up to and work on, and then give metrics to those Polaris stars so that you can measure them, and ideally measure them, monthly, but at a high level. The macro view is annually, and the micro view is quarterly. I would say that's kind of the metric. So once you get those Polaris stars, then you can go to an offsite, you can talk about big wins, you can brain dump your issues that you're having, and then you can brain dump the best possible ways you think that you can improve each of these categories. Fantastic thing, fantastic exercise. I think we're going to continue to replicate this process through our next offsites and improve upon it. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is how we ran our offsite 2 weeks ago. It was a beautiful process. I'm so excited about how it unfolded because it wasn't necessarily planned. In this video, I probably didn't do the best job explaining the structure, but again, I'm doing my best with what I have. I don't want to spend 6 hours making a perfect, SOP for you. I'm trying to get this done in 30 to 40 minutes and publish the video. So let me know your thoughts on this. If this was helpful, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I respond to all the comments personally. The only thing I ask in return is that you hit the red subscribe button below this video. That's actually the only thing that I ask for. And if you can do that, that would make my year so much better. Thank you so much. Much love. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao.